Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool. And before I get started, some people have asked about what I'm working on here. This is actually a 3-drawer with raised top Mac roll cart. It's a little bit higher. I like it as a better studio top. And it honestly reminds me of a National Geographic magazine because I've got this nice yellow outline, so I'm pretending I'm in the middle of a National Geographic cover when I do this work. But anyway, a while ago I did a video on these Knipex 8551 180s, which are hose clamp pliers, which are designed obviously to compress various kinds of hose clamps like this. But they are kind of expensive. And there is a cheaper option from another company. It's called Snap-on. Kind of a corny name, but if you want to save some money, you can buy this less expensive one. However, it's got some differences, and I'm going to point those out here. Basically, Snap-on, what they've done is they've taken their conventional 47 ACF and used sort of a similar design. There are some differences. One, the 47 ACF, their standard slip joint plier, has a cutter right here in the jaw. You can see that, which can be quite handy. This one, there is no cutter. Maybe they did that because you are working around hoses and you wouldn't want to accidentally, slip and cause the hose or grab a hold of the hose and literally puncture it with that last little tooth there, or the slice. So I don't know. That's just my guess because I don't see any function for that. What I see is the removal of a function, and that might have been it. People are reaching in and then all of a sudden they cut the hose. But anyway, it's got a different jaw than the Canipex. And if you look at these close, the Canipex has a dynamic jaw here with this spinning kind of, looks like a molar, a tooth molar. It's a 4-sided circular grabbing, looks like it's replaceable too, grabbing face, double on both sides. So these spin, and that's a big deal. I'll show you that in a sec. It also grabs it from different angles, which is huge too. The Snap-on the other hand, grab the right plier here, basically has two options. It looks like, I don't know, whatever the head is, 70-degree angle or something. So it has a deeper indent, try to see with the shadow there, and then two channels. One essentially out the side of the plier with some adjustment, maybe for a wrist angle, and then one directly out the front. So those are your only two choices. It does have a slip joint, so this would be the smallest on the large setting, and obviously full closure here. At first I thought, well, maybe these would be handier because you've essentially got a pair of pliers and you've got the hose clamping. But in reality, you've lost the major use, that grippy surface up at the front end of the slip joints. You did retain kind of the nut bolt grabbing part here, but you've got these smooth faces essentially, unless you've got something that can stick into that depression there. You really don't have a good use up here, so they are limited. They are not a replacement for something like this. And so also look at the way these bite in. That's one of the limitations there, is the different sizes. If I go to something large, you've got one face essentially that it has to engage in, and those angles change quite a bit. I've also noticed if it's not perfect, unfortunately, because of that upward arc, might happen if it was full 90 degrees, but that little upward arc, that angle, if you don't grab the hose clamp just dead center into those seating holes, if it's off even a little, which it often is if you can't really see, and you start squeezing, that works right to the edge. In fact, I'll show you it here in action, and it can sting. So got it just outside. You can see it's just barely outside there, but it's fully there. As I start to squeeze, luckily that one went in. If I start to squeeze, you can see it's working its way out. If I keep going, eventually it pops out. So that's a little bit unfortunate. If you compare that to the Canipex here, The Canipex, if that's seated, it's not going out. It has full coverage right up here by the jaw. It's locked in there. The other thing is, notice with the Canipex, and I showed you that, I can wiggle this back and forth and I can pull hard against that even while I'm wiggling. You know, pretend you're dogging a chew toy or something. Whereas the Snap-on, go to my larger setting here, even if it's dropped in right there, I can't really move. If I do, I unseat it if it doesn't, you know, fall directly into that corner. So I can literally pull this thing out if I get it up onto these other faces. So once you grab something with this Snap-on, that's the angle. That's it. Doesn't go anywhere. You have two angles, that one, and if you can line it up right, that one. But even this one is a little wonky there. I shouldn't be able to easily pop that out. You see how that, try that there. See what happens? So this one, once you get it in there, look at that. Got almost 360 degrees, you know, that it grabs it. Now, somebody in the comments did mention you can break these teeth off. I imagine you could. I figure, I don't know if that's a warranty or you can order more or what, but the performance advantage, you know, I'll take that hit. That's fine. I also had somebody ask how well it works on like the double wire ones. Not nearly as well. Of course, this seats just fine, but up here, you know, it only grabs. It can grab both, you can see, but not as well. So you're a little bit limited trying to grab the two. It does work, just have to be a little bit careful because they're fighting against each other when they move. So it's doable. It actually works quite well. The Snap-on one, not so much. Go in there. In fact, this doesn't even fit very well in there. You see that? The way this thing grabs. I can squeeze it if I'm careful, but it also, you can see it's already slipped out. Compared to a regular plier, which on these doubles actually often works quite well if you're very careful. You know, so this is definitely not as good as this, but this one does seem to be better. Now, what about overall strength? So let's try something. What I've got is a pair of these hose clamps. I'm going to attach them. I've got to get those centered up just right. Attach those. And now this side. By the way, the Knipex is noticeably lighter. So there they are. And you can see I fully engaged the Snap-on. I fully engaged the Knipex. Now let's have a little battle here. Battle to the death. That's what happens. A good solid grab on the Snap-on. I can hold it tighter than this Knipex can hold if I'm fighting with it. But I don't know why you would ever do that. It just so happens that in this demonstration, when I've played around and kept that centered, I can hold this to the point where it seems like it's not going to come out. It's very strong. I'd have to compress it further to literally get it out. Smaller things like these, they don't really fit that well. They're more like regular pliers. So you can just pry those out. In fact, if you look, you know, it's just not long enough to seat. So I've got it on two fairly smooth surfaces on this side. And then I was able to get it into a channel on this side, but that doesn't really help. It still pops out. So for smaller stuff, these don't work near as well. Or at all. In fact, I think you're better off in this case with some grippy stuff right up front, because that does seem to hold it quite a bit better. Overall, it's a great set of pliers. If you are working on kind of a uniform shape hose clamp, and this works great, this to me is a great option. It's a good option as long as one of these two angles suits your needs. I was hoping it would work around all kinds of different tasks besides this, and it doesn't. It's not a replacement, just make that clear. This one, on the other hand, is rock solid. It would be my first choice. It's a great design. I haven't tried to replace these or even take them out. I'm going to look into that, but they do look like they're steel, maybe even stainless steel. But this, of course, does not have much use besides hose clamp pliers either. But anyway, that's what I discovered as I was playing around with them. If I was going to carry one, it would definitely be this one. But for standard radiator hoses, if you're working on the same vehicles or whatever, and it works great, this is a good solid heavy plier. It's definitely bigger in the hand, and it's less expensive. Don't get to say that very often on this channel, but the snap-on one's the cheaper one, less expensive one. Anyway, hope you found that helpful if you're curious about those two. And with that, Doc out.